This page was created to teach Black history. Unfortunately, the American educational system was designed to exclude our real historical account, so we are here to dismantle it. It's time to enlighten those of us who have been kept in the dark. I am a Black man who didn't know enough about my own history, so I began to dig deeper and do my own research. Black history is American history, so I want people of all races and cultures to join together to learn our history as one. Here, I will share all of my findings. Please like, follow, share, and subscribe to Teaching Black History. The story of the Scottsboro Boys. The Scottsboro Boys were 9 African-American teenagers, ages 13 to 20, accused in Alabama of raping 2 white women in 1931. The landmark set of legal cases from this incident dealt with racism and the right to a fair trial. The cases included a lynch mob before the suspects had been indicted. All white juries rushed trials and disruptive mobs. It is commonly cited as an example of a miscarriage of justice in the United States legal system. On March 25, 1931, 24 people were hoboing on a freight train traveling between Chattanooga and Memphis, Tennessee. The hobos being an equal mix of black and whites. A group of white teenage boys saw 18-year-old Haywood Patterson on the train and attempted to push him off the train, claiming that it was a white man's train. A group of whites gathered rocks and attempted to force all of the black men from the train. Patterson and the other black passengers were able to ward off the group. The humiliated white teenagers jumped or were forced off the train and reported to the city sheriff that they had been attacked by a group of black teenagers. The sheriffs deputized a posse, stopped and searched the train at Paint Rock, Alabama, and arrested the black Americans. 2 young white women were also taken to jail, where they accused the African-American teenagers of rape. The case was first heard in Scottsboro, Alabama, in 3 rush trials in which the defendants received poor legal representation. All but 13-year-old Roy Wright were convicted of rape and sentenced to death, the common sentence in Alabama at the time for black men convicted of raping white women, even though there was no medical evidence indicating that rape had taken place. With help from the CPUSA and the NAACP, the case was appealed. The Alabama Supreme Court affirmed 7 of the 8 convictions and granted 13-year-old Eugene Williams a new trial because he was a minor. Chief Justice John C. Anderson dissented, ruling that the defendants had been denied an impartial jury, fair trial, fair sentencing, and effective counsel. While waiting for their trials, 8 of the 9 defendants were held in Kilby Prison. The cases were twice appealed to the United States Supreme Court, which led to landmark decisions on the conduct of trials. In Powell v. Alabama, it ordered new trials. The case was first returned to the lower court and the judge allowed a change of venue, moving the retrials to Decatur, Alabama. Judge Horton was appointed. During the retrials, one of the alleged victims admitted to fabricating the rape story and asserted that none of the Scottsboro boys touched either of the white women. The jury found the defendants guilty, but the judge set aside the verdict and granted a new trial. The judge was replaced and the case tried under a judge who ruled frequently against the defense. For the 3rd time, a jury now with 1 African-American member returned a guilty verdict. The case was sent to the U.S. Supreme Court on appeal. It ruled that African Americans had to be included on juries and ordered retrials. Charges were finally dropped for 4 of the 9 defendants. Sentencing for the rest ranged from 75 years to death. All but 2 served prison sentences. All were released or escaped by 1946. In 1936, one of the boys, Ozzie Powell, was shot in the face and permanently disabled during an altercation with a sheriff's deputy in prison, and later pleaded guilty to assaulting the deputy. 2 escaped, were later charged with other crimes, convicted and sent back to prison. Clarence Norris, the oldest defendant and the only one sentenced to death in the final trial, jumped parole in 1946 and went into hiding. He was found in 1976 and paroled by Governor George Wallace, by which time the case had been thoroughly analyzed and shown to be an injustice. Norris later wrote a book about his experiences. He died in 1989 as the last surviving defendant. The Scottsboro boys, as they became known, and their case is now widely considered a miscarriage of justice, highlighted by the use of all-white juries. Black Americans in Alabama had been disenfranchised since the late 19th century and were likewise not allowed on juries. The case has been explored in many works of literature, music, theater, film, and television. On November 21, 2013, Alabama's parole board voted to grant pardons to the 3 Scottsboro boys who had not been pardoned or had their convictions overturned.